So, welcome to the Wednesday Wellbeing Show. I'm Amanda Joy. I'm your host this evening, and tonight I'm talking with Arjuna Ishiya. I probably just said that wrong again, but never mind. I'm going to get him to correct me in a moment. Arjuna was originally an outdoor instructor from New Zealand, so we'll be enjoying listening to his lovely accent as well as a Yorkshire accent tonight. And he has been a monk and a meditation teacher since 2003. He's currently doing some very interesting work with the British Military Bomb Disposal Regiment and the Metropolitan Police. And he's also the author of an incredible book. If you haven't read it yet, do get yourself a copy. It's called 200%, an instruction manual for living life fully. He lives in Richmond in North Yorkshire, lovely, beautiful town with an incredibly rich history and a fantastic castle. So if you're ever there, it definitely is a lovely, beautiful place to visit. Welcome to the show, Arjuna. Thank you so much for giving me your time this evening and coming on and telling us all about yourself.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Yeah, thank you for inviting me. I'm chuffed.
So your book, 200%, an instruction manual for living fully. I love that. Why did you call it 200%?
Because it's the Ishayas, the Ishayas have a
Ishayas,
it's an old theme of them. Yeah. When I was starting to get into the spiritual stuff, I started looking at it, and it seemed like I had to give up the things that I enjoyed in order to have a spiritual life. And the Ishayas are saying, no, that's not the case at all. We want you to fully enjoy your life, your family, your hobbies, your everything, but with a solid foundation, with a absolutely stable inner connection with your true self. And so what we talk about is 200%, 100% internal joy and peace and connection, and 100% absolute effectiveness and fun and passion in the outside world. So,
amazing.
Yeah, 200%.
There's that thing, isn't there, about when we heal our inner world, the outer world kind of sorts itself out as well. And I do really believe that meditation and the work that you do not only helps you to change that inner world, but as a result of that, like the knock-on effect, if you like, the side effects of having more joy and more peace and living your life in the way that you should do, happy, healthy and well, is actually going to, I believe, be a way of saving the planet as well. Yeah.
That's why I'm a monk. Because I want, specifically, I know the world needs help. I know people are longing for peace, for equality, for certainty. And I truly believe the best thing that I can do is show people how to find that within themselves. And so they become a lighthouse for everybody else. And, you know, it just takes one heart to become a flame to light many other hearts. And that's the way that at least I think we're going to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that. Like that passion for meditation is contagious. And let's spread that throughout. Let's have a meditation pandemic.
Yeah. Well, for me, meditation is like the tool. It really is what counts is your connection with your sense of harmony and truth and love and rightness and beauty. You know, meditation is the thing that gives you that. And so, yeah, let's have a pandemic of love.
Love pandemic. I'm totally up for that. Obviously, we have experienced a pandemic recently, and it's been a time, hasn't it, where people have had to stay at home. And you know, for a lot of people have been talking to me about how this time, although it's been very, very difficult and very challenging for a lot of people, it's also been a great time of blessing. It's been a time where people have spent quality time with their loved ones and with their family. Obviously, if you're locked in at home together, that's definitely brought around a lot of challenges. I know a lot of my friends have struggled with new maths because they've been doing homeschooling. New maths is a whole new problem, a whole new challenge. But it's really made us all really appreciate the simpler things in life, and it has been a time, hasn't it, for people to really go inward and reflect. And I do believe that we've been through quite a time of transition, and that people are now really searching and looking for ways that they can take responsibility for their own health, their own well-being, be that emotional well-being or psychological or physical well-being. But people are looking, aren't they, to find that peace. How do people become responsible for their own peace?
I think it's first realizing that your peace and your happiness has to be a choice. One of the reasons I became a monk was because I got very confused. I had an incredible period of confusion simply because I had everything that I wanted. I had this beautiful house by a lake surrounded by mountains. I had an incredible job as an outdoor instructor. I had great friends. I had everything on my to-do list, everything on my success list. And I was so confused because I felt like a donut. I wrote about this recently, but everything looked glamorous on the outside, but empty in the middle. And I couldn't understand, because this was supposed to make me happy. Everything that I had achieved and worked for and set up was supposed to give me fulfillment, and none of it did. And it was, I've since read so many people, especially the rich and famous, like Sylvester Stallone, which I mentioned in my book, how he said exactly the same thing. He thought being rich and famous and having this reputation and money and would make him happy and satisfied and give his life meaning, but it doesn't. It's an important part of the picture, ticking off your goals and taking care of your responsibilities, but we let our happiness, we let our peace be given to us by our partners, by our kids, by possessions, jobs, careers, health, the whole thing. But the fact is, we're not in control of them. As this virus has shown us, we don't have as much control as we like. And if our happiness is given to us, it can be taken away from us.
Yeah.
When your partner's getting all snarky with you, it's obvious that if you need them to be a certain way in order to be happy or at peace, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
And that's why so many people struggle with control and anxiety, is because we just don't realize that we are the source of our own peace. But as soon as you realize that, as soon as you kind of accept that, I can choose, or at least learn to choose for peace or happiness, no matter what's going on around me. It makes everything so much easier, because no longer do I need stuff. I need to have that to be happy. It's like, I want it because it looks like fun.
I know when I was growing up, I was almost guided as a young person into, this kind of mindset of, okay, so at this age, I should be thinking about getting married and having children. And by this age, I should have a house or a mortgage. And, I should have this kind of car. And maybe I should have this kind of a job. And I should earn this kind of money. And we set all these objectives for ourselves. Thinking and believing and working really hard as well to reach those objectives, so that we can kind of have this happy, peaceful existence. And quite often, life happens, and the jobs change, and we don't have as much job security. Housing isn't always possible for us, and you get to a point where you think, I've got everything, but I'm still not happy, or I'm struggling and I still want everything, and that's making me miserable. But what you're saying is these external factors, the house, the job, the car, the wife, the family, the kids, the car, the holidays, those things, you can have them all, or you can have none of them, but you're still not going to have that inner peace. You're still not going to have that happiness. How do we tap into that knowledge, that wisdom, to bring a sense of balance to our lives? How do we get the courage to have that acceptance and work on ourselves internally to find that peace?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and I think it comes through present moment awareness. And that if I can let go of control, if I can let go of worry, if I can let go of chasing and striving and struggling just for this moment in time, if I can simply rest here, oh, this is okay. My life hasn't fallen apart. I haven't turned into a useless blob of jelly. And this actually feels good. So maybe I might choose for another moment longer, just to rest, just to stop, just to be okay, just to let go. And really simply that grows. You see that you can trust, you can let go now, and your life doesn't fall apart. And the acceptance that you bring to things that are out of your control means that you have more energy and more focus and more ability to do the things that you can change, that you can control. So for me, it all begins right here, right now, is just not letting go forever. Just, can I settle now? Can I rest now? Can I just drop my shoulders a bit and not think about the future or the past, right? Just for a moment, just for this. Can I let now be enough? And I think that's a very contagious experience because now because contentment is a choice. And when you let now be enough as it is, it's a really good feeling. Because being busy, being stressed, struggling, controlling, being fearful, it's tough. And letting go of that, even for a split second, is it's very, as I say, addictive in a good way.
Is that not just laziness? Are you not just being lazy? If you've got like a massive list of things that you need to do, is it not selfish or lazy to just be content in that moment?
Yeah, and that's such a good question. And a lot of people talk to me about, I don't want to do this because I don't want to lose my edge. I don't want to drop the plates that I'm spinning. And yet they're grinding their teeth at night. They can't sleep. They're snappy and irritated with their kids, with their partner. They're in traffic yelling at everyone. They're multitasking. So they're missing. They can't even do one thing right because they're trying to do 6 things at the same time. And all I'm saying is, really, this is the skill or the practice of doing one thing at a time, putting all of your attention onto the thing that's right in front of you, as opposed to the past and the future, which you have no control over. It's simply showing up to this. And if that's a planning session, if that's a how do I fix this problem session, great. Give your full undivided attention to it. But the trouble is we never do that. We can't do it. We don't have the ability to focus on one thing at a time. So yes, it is relaxation, it is being content, it is letting go, but it is also the ability just to be really razor sharp with your attention like a laser and say, this is what I'm sticking to. And that's the problem with our minds, is it's like a little, a bundle of puppies that just keep running off and bringing us stuff. We can't control them. They're just everywhere. And sometimes the stuff they bring back is nice. And a lot of the time it brings back stuff that's nasty and we don't want to think about. And, and we can't give our attention. We don't have trained puppies. So actually, the ability to let go is also the ability to focus on what is right in front of you. It goes hand in hand. So it's not lazy, but yeah, we spend far too much time carrying stuff in our heads and actually not enough time doing the things that we can control.
Yeah. So by having those moments of focus, and by letting go and having those moments where you go, okay, right here, right now, I'm just going to sit in this moment and not be busy. That actually brings us more clarity and more ability to focus when we want. I'm a really big fan of meditation, and one of the things that I've been focusing on, actually just on by myself over the last couple of weeks, I haven't driven very much for quite a while because I've been sort of stuck at home, which has been great because it's given me an opportunity to put new tires on the car, and I've given it a good clean, which is really, really lovely. Feels like a whole brand new car now. But what I noticed was that, and I'm probably not the best driver either, if I'm honest. I drive a little bit like a demented old lady. And I still think I live in Spain, so I've got a bit of that going on as well. So my driving skills are probably not that great, but I think what tends to happen when I'm driving is my awareness is in lots of different places. So my awareness is on my schedule, my awareness is on my to-do list, my awareness is on what do I need to buy at the supermarket, my awareness is on who I need to phone later. And actually what I'm not doing is my awareness is not on the driving, and that's the task that I'm doing. So the other day, I drove for the first time in a long time, and I decided that I was going to just for this particular trip, I was just going to focus on the driving. Wasn't gonna listen to the radio, wasn't gonna be thinking about anything else other than just driving. I'm just gonna focus on the driving. And I was quite surprised at how much I enjoyed driving. I loved it. Such a lovely experience. I haven't driven in such a long time. Really enjoyed. I stuck to the speed limit. My dad will be pleased to hear about that. And I really enjoyed. I enjoyed looking at the road. I enjoyed looking around me and really just paying attention to what was going on. And I did find myself, my attention, my awareness was trying to wander off, and I kept sort of bringing it back just to the road, and my driving was so much better than it is. And I thought I ought to do this a bit more often, and perhaps I need to do this in other areas of my life as well. I need to really bring my awareness, my attention, my focus to just one thing at a time, and just keep bringing my attention and my awareness and my focus back to that one thing. And that's my challenge that I've set myself for the next couple of weeks within my personal life, within just to focus. And I've just been chopping up a bit of broccoli in the kitchen, and normally in the kitchen I've got music on, I'm dancing, I've got the phone here, and maybe looking at someone on Facebook whilst I'm listening and dancing, and I'm chopping and I'm cutting, and I thought I'm just going to prepare the broccoli. I'm just going to focus on this one thing, the smells and the preparation, and just tweaking a few things, and just becoming really aware of where my awareness is, where my attention is, because I really believe that where my focus and where my awareness is, that's where my energy goes as well. And I want to create good, healthy food for myself. So, I want to put my focus on preparing nice food for myself. And I think we can do this in lots of areas of our lives. We can really bring that focus, and that's what meditation has really done for me. It's helped me to understand where my brain goes, where my mind goes, and that's a bit like those puppies that you were talking about. The puppies are flying off in all different directions, and I'm like, just gonna pick up one puppy and deal with one puppy at a time.
Yeah. And if you remember the most amazing moments of your life, those incredible, memorable moments that just bring you great joy and great peace or great excitement to think about, they were so memorable because we were totally absorbed in them. we weren't thinking about the bank account. We weren't thinking about boss. We weren't thinking about anything except for this moment.
Yeah.
It so sucked us in. And that's why we do the things that we love to do, because it gets us out of this and puts us in direct contact with the thing. That's why that absorption and that immersion in the moment is what creates aliveness. And so you're right. That's why it's the end of boredom. It's the end of everything that's tedious and annoying, because all of a sudden we can not listen to the monkeys or the puppies in our head. We can just give our full attention to this, and that creates at least contentment, at least a quiet joy.
I just you can go when you become aware of your mind, when you start listening to what and being aware of where your mind goes, you can kind of go on a journey. You can go back to those happy memories, like you were talking about, those happy times, and you can take yourself back to the beach, and what the mind believes, the body achieves. So if you take yourself to that place where you're on that lovely holiday in your memories, and you allow all your focus and all your awareness to remember that lovely moment, your body will respond as if you've been on the beach. And then it might just be 10 minutes of your day where you're taking your focus, you're taking your awareness and placing it back in that lovely positive memory. But I quite like the idea of going on a beach holiday for 10 minutes every morning. It's a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah. I saw a study, and it said in your first year of, I think this was related to ascension meditation, but I'm not sure, but in your first year of practice, if you regularly practice, you become younger by 7 biological years, right? So your body rejuvenates, just as you were mentioning. It becomes more energetic, more recharged. It can heal itself so much better because you're not so busy.
Incredible, isn't it? Yeah. I quite often talk to my clients about, if you have a limb, and you're constantly using the limb all of the time, that limb is going to get sore and tired and achy and stressed. And I see the mind as just a limb, another working part of who we are. And it sometimes really dominates us, doesn't it? What's in our heads, it dominates our day, it dominates how we speak to people. And sometimes we do need to learn how to quieten our mind, or to switch it off. Otherwise it's going to get sore, and it's going to get tired, and it's going to create pain in our lives.
Oh, absolutely. That's the we there's 2 things I want to say, but it's the filter. It's the judgment and the label of everything. And we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are, as we think it is. We don't see clearly. We see what our thoughts think about it is. It's a fascinating thing. You change your mind and you change the world. It's outrageous how it works.
So one of the things that you talk about is how to change your mind and what you can do. And one of the things that you said is to focus on what you have. To focus on what you have. It's like, is your glass half full or is it half empty? I think it was the Cadbury's advert that did do you remember the one with the gorilla? I love that advert. Have you got a glass full, or is your glass half empty? Tell me a little bit more about how do we focus on what we have?
Well, it's very easy. It's very, it's part of our survival. If you want to get into the biology, it's part of our reptilian brain to focus on what's wrong, what could do us harm. It's a survival instinct. Now, the more stressed we are, the more that gets switched on. the harder it is to see how good our lives already are, no matter what's happening around us.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the benefits of slowing down, of getting less stressed, of being calm and clear, is that a different part of our brain switches on, and it enables us, it gets easier to take a step back from a problem and go, actually, you know, this problem's still annoying me, but it's a small problem and a whole lot of good, as opposed to being a big problem in no good. And perhaps that's what depression is that we have maybe a chemical imbalance or a learned behavior, is that we just can't see the good in our life. And so everything goes grey. But we do that even if we don't have depression. And it's so easy to get stuck on what's missing, what's wrong, what we don't like, what's lacking, what's not here yet. And the practice of appreciation and gratitude simply is showing us what we do have, what is beautiful, what we love, what is right. And it is just a simple focus on, and so important. It's so important because what you focus on grows. You live where your attention is. And if it's on what's wrong and what's missing, what the problems are, what the challenges are, what's going crazy in the world, then that's what becomes you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I talk a lot with my clients about perception filters. And I use a really silly example, but since I was about 16 years old, I've wanted a Fiat 500. I saw a bright pink one when I was about 16 years old, and I was like, I want one of those cars. And I've hired them a couple of times. I love driving them. I've never actually owned one because it's quite difficult to get a massage couch in the back of a Fiat 500. They're not that practical, but I see them everywhere. Wherever I go, I see a Fiat 500s everywhere, and it's because I had this desire for this thing, and it's altered my perception filters. I don't tend to notice Volvos and Volkswagens and any of the other cars, but I see Fiat 500s everywhere. And it's because my perception filters are changed. And it's like you're saying, if you're focusing on the scary stories, if you're focusing on the negative stuff, then as you step out the door, your perception filters are going to be in such a way that you're going to notice more of the negative things in your path on your, you know, throughout your day. Whereas if you spend some time thinking about how your glass is half full and not half empty, if you spend some time focusing on the things that are really beautiful and good and wholesome in your life, the things that you're grateful for in your life, when you're focusing on that, it alters your perception filters, so that when you step out the door, you see Fiat 500s everywhere. You see positive things everywhere. You notice the good things, you notice the beautiful things so much more. And that's what I believe has changed for me. I see the world through more positive eyes because of the meditation practices that I have.
Yeah. And it's often people say, you know, it's you're just sticking your head in the sand, you're avoiding the obvious problems, you're living in a dream world and all of this stuff. But it's not that. It's not a spiritual bypass. What I'm talking about. And my friend who is an Ishaya, and she works for the UN, and she used to spend a lot of time in Africa, in the war-torn countries there, working with the kids. And these kids have been used as soldiers and prostitutes. So they're kidnapped from their families from a really young age, brainwashed and put into the machine of war. And so her job before she was an Ishaya was to help them. She was working for an NGO, a non-governmental organization there. And she said the problem just overwhelmed her. She just got swamped by sorrow and misery and the scale of suffering and the horror and everything. And she would just have a nervous breakdown, have to go back to Sweden, recover, come back out. And she was being like this. She was just ineffective. She learned meditation ascension and started to really work on focusing on what was good, on the beauty, on the wholeness of these kids, rather than focusing on their negativity, their past, their story. And she said it was the most amazing thing, because before, the filter was she could only see their history.
Yeah.
She could only see their injuries and their scars. When she started focusing on what was good and right, she started to see a person. And she could have a communication with this person, and she didn't get exhausted and drained and nervous breakdown anymore. It was tough work, of course, but she had that resilience, that she had that ability in the middle of all the mud and dirt and violence and horror to see beauty, to see the goodness. And that was all the difference to make a difference. So it's not sticking your head in your sand, because if you focus on what's wrong and the horrible and the problems, you just get ground to dust by this world, because there's always a problem. There's always a challenge. There's always an atrocity. There's always something that's not right. And if you focus on that, you get knackered. And so really it's a survival thing.
Yeah.
Acceptance, contentment, positivity, gratitude is actually enables you to be more effective at making the world a different place.
Yeah. I love it. In your book, you talk about the 8 choices that we can make. The 8 choices. I love these 8 choices. So the first one is to own it when you want to point the finger. Own it when you want to point the finger. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, and it's a big choice. It means you can't blame anybody else for your life anymore. It's saying, this is me, my choice. I'm all in. I'm not going to be a victim or make excuses anymore. So being responsible is a huge choice, because it may not be your fault, but you're the one that's got to live it.
Yeah.
And there's an old Stoic, the ancient philosophers of Stoicism, they have an idea of a cart, and there's a dog tied to the cart. Now the cart's going to roll. The dog can make it easy or hard, right? And we are the same. Sometimes life is going to roll. We can make it hard or we can make it easy. And that's really our responsibility. That's really owning it. But when I found I did that, when I said, all right, this life is my life. I'm not going to wait for anybody else. I'm not going to be rescued by some beautiful princess. It's me. If I want things that I want, if I want peace, if I want to do my adventures, then I gotta do it. It's me. And that's scary, but it's exciting at the same time, because no longer are you waiting. No longer are you delaying or putting it off or outside of yourself. It's like, no matter what happens, I'm gonna make the best of this.
It feels empowering. It's a way of really taking control of your life, having that acceptance of who you are and where you are and what's real, and like you say, going with the flow, owning your faults as well as your talents. You know, we quite often focus on our faults, and sometimes we need to own our talents as well too, don't we, to enable us to have that life that we dream of. I love your choice number 2 as well, to respond when you want to react. I talk a lot about reactions and responses. So for me, a response is something that perhaps I've thought about, and it's something that I've maybe even planned, but it's got some thought or some kind of process behind it. Whereas a reaction is more like it's just coming from my body or my being. And, you know, my reactions can be anything from an outburst of uncontrolled laughter, or it could be a kind of like a confused face, like, oh, what? Huh? Or it could be anger. A reaction could be anger, but those reactions are not, they're not, I'm not controlling them. They've just come from nowhere, if you like. They've just come from me, and there is a result of my kind of perceptions of the world, and how I've been formed through my experiences in life. How do we learn to respond instead of just reacting?
Well, awareness. For me, it all starts with awareness of the situations, the people, the events that trigger you. And we're not talking about spontaneous laughter or confusion or anything. It's this kind of, and if you're unsure what your buttons are, ask your loved ones, because they know exactly what they are, because they push them all the time and they find great joy in going. Especially your kids, it's the biggest game in the world to your kids, is to find a way in. It's just being aware of those things.
I always say children now to press your buttons, because we're the ones that have sewn them on.
Yeah. That is so perfect. Yeah. And so be really aware of how you're reacting.
Yeah.
And especially those times where you're angry or you try and avoid, they're really good signs to show up with greater awareness, to step into it with lights fully on. Go, okay, what's happening here? What am I feeling, and why? Is this actually rational, or do I want to feel this way, or do I want to react this way? Do I need to take a deep breath? Do I need to take myself away and respond differently? Or am I going to keep avoiding or keep getting reactive in a destructive sense?
Sometimes for me, I sometimes say to myself, do you know, the best response in this moment is no response. So I'm going to get back to you. Or I might just never respond, because that's the best choice for me, or for the situation that I'm in.
Exactly.
And I know that I quite often say to people, no is a full and complete answer. You don't need to explain yourself. Just say no. Equally, yes is also a full and complete answer, and you can say that too. I love that. Acceptance. Whew, this is a big one. I love talking about acceptance of your situation, acceptance of where you are, but acceptance when you want to reject is what you've put on your choices to live list. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, it's like we were talking earlier, there's so much that isn't in our control. And we spend a great deal of mental energy and emotional energy and time rejecting or resisting what is. We reject reality so much. We struggle against a fact all the time. And it's like, it's torture. We're torturing ourselves. And so there's so many situations in life where the only option is to accept. And that, as you're talking earlier, feels like laziness. It feels like copping out. It feels like we don't care. It feels like we're giving up, and all of these things. And yet, really, what it does is it gives you clarity. When you stop fighting, you can step back and go, I'm banging my head against this closed door here, but look, there's this gateway that's wide open over there.
I love that. I love that prayer, the Serenity Prayer. Grant me the serenity, because there is some serenity in it, isn't there? To accept the things I cannot change. Give me the courage to change the things I can. And, the wisdom to know the difference. I think the wisdom bit is the bit that we're constantly working on, isn't it? But there's a lot of serenity in acceptance. And I love that it's there.
Yeah, it's crucial, because this virus it was imposed upon us, and you can struggle and fight and kick and read the papers and deny and all these things, and yet the other part of acceptance is sometimes we react. Sometimes we do get jealous, sometimes we do get angry, sometimes we do get grumpy or avoid things, and sometimes just accepting that, going, okay, I'll do better next time, is such a act of forgiveness as well to yourself.
So the acceptance, an acceptance of how we are perfectly imperfect.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
love
That would,
that. I love
yeah.
that. Appreciate when you want to criticize. To appreciate when we want to criticize. This is an interesting one, particularly at the moment, because for me, and I work with a lot of people as well who want to get back to work. We want the government to give us information. We don't like what they're saying. We don't like what they're telling us. How on earth do we appreciate when we're in a position where all we really want to do is just criticize?
Mm, yeah. And I'm not saying don't act or don't speak to try and change. If you get a meal that's horrendous, speak up. Say, hey, excuse me, I'd like another meal.
Yeah.
You don't just go, well, it's got broccoli, I think. I'm not talking about that, but and I think it's in the book. But I remember hearing the Dalai Lama speak, and it was an amazing interview. And then the interviewer said, "Can you tell me a little bit about your relationship with the Chinese leader?" And at that point, I sat up because China had kicked him out of his country, destroyed his temples, killed his monks. A horrendous situation in Tibet. And he said, the Chinese leader has taught me so much about patience. And I was like, whoa, if anyone had a right to complain, I would say it was him. And yet he decided, no, I'm not going to focus on the negative. I'm going to focus on what the good is in this situation. I'm going to see what I can squeeze out of this for me. Because really, karma, when you focus on the negative, when you criticize, when you complain, you slump, you fall into a hole, you get deeper, darker. There's no benefit to you. And the fact is, like the Dalai Lama, you can find something to appreciate about anything or anyone. And that's the difference between, say, a victim and someone who transcends what has been done to them.
Yeah.
The victim really is focusing on the problem, on what went wrong, on all of that stuff. And acceptance is a great piece of that. But part of moving on is seeing the positive. And I talk about people when I've met people who, say, for example, have lost their legs. And traumatic experience, yes, not easy at all. But
No.
all of them, when they come out the other side, have said, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
One woman I'm thinking of, for example, said, I was asleep. I was sleepwalking through life.
Yeah.
Losing my legs made me realize how short my life was. And so many people with cancer I've met recently have said that too. Said, you know what? Whew, it was a wake-up call. I was slowly dying, and now I'm living.
I interviewed somebody just a couple of weeks ago who said that she was grateful for the cancer that she had because it did exactly that. It woke her up and it put her on the path that she felt she should have been on all of her life, and that she'd just been living this life, like you were saying, like asleep, living a life asleep, and it woke her up. And now she's living cancer-free and she's helping other people, and it's incredible the work that she's doing. I love it.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it really is amazing. Yeah. To give when you want to get. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a powerful choice, simply because I've noticed that in my own life and others is service. When you have an attitude of how can I help, and science has proven this too, you're not only happier, but you're healthier.
Yeah.
You live longer. And it also gives you a sense of meaning and purpose. There's something about us as humans that need a connection to other humans. And if there's Buddhist meditations where really when you're eating the food, you're considering all the hands that brought the food to you and thanking everybody.
Yeah.
And it's an incredible thing. You can lay a brick wall, or you can create a cathedral. Right? You can simply just go, oh, this is boring, or you can be part of something, building something glorious. And that's really the fundamental thing of giving, of service, of helping, is creating something bigger than you.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
it gets you out of your own problems. If you're in a funk, the best thing you can do is go find someone to help.
Yeah,
Yeah?
absolutely.
And all the helpers know this because they feel great after they've helped someone in a problem, or cleaned a yard, or coached a sports team, or helped an elderly neighbor with their shopping. It just makes you feel wonderful, and on all those different levels that I've talked about, it fulfills in many different ways.
Yeah, definitely. I totally believe that when we when we kind of carry out acts of selflessness, and when we are living in service of others, that selflessness helps our self-esteem to grow. It gives us self-worth. We increase it's a way to self-love. All of the things that we need, that self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth, self-love, are all benefited by acts of selflessness and being of service. Living a life of service is definitely that as well. And giving is so lovely. One of the things that's popped up around here locally throughout Corona is a giving page. Where people are putting up their wish lists on Amazon, and you can pop on and just buy a complete stranger something that they perhaps need. And it's such a lovely thing to do because nobody knows who it is. You just get this lovely parcel delivered. So it's an anonymous way to give. And I think when you can give like that, and it's a secret giving, you're not doing it to like big yourself up, like check me out, I'm so generous. When you're doing it really in a selfless way, that's such a beautiful way to grow your self-worth, your self-value, and your self-esteem. I love that. Really love it.
But even if you can't, just begin anyway. And what you find is that giving brings you great joy, and that's the reward. And whether you're noticed for it or not, as I said, it's being part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
So just start.
Start giving time, energy to others. It's lovely. Yeah.
I think I talk about in the book too, in relationships quite often, well, at least my ones, it was all about what can I get from this girl. It was very much like a business transaction. I'll give you a little bit, but I want something back. And I've found if I'm all in, like if I'm giving, it comes back so much more. If I'm giving without regard for what I'm going to get, man, the relationship is alive and it's passionate and there's a connection and there's excitement and all the things we want in a relationship. But if we build up this defense of, okay, show me what you got, throw a parcel over, what am I going to get out of this? The best relationships are where both parties are wanting to give. And so if you're in a relationship where you're giving all the time and not getting, then you may want to look at that. But everything always begins with you. If you want more understanding, give understanding. If you want more love, give love. If you want more hugs, give more hugs. If you want more money, be freer with giving money. It's the most outrageous thing that it all begins with us and putting it out there.
I love that. Give and you will receive. I'm sure that's in the Bible somewhere.
Right.
To be here now, right now in this moment, especially when you want to be somewhere else. I'm sure we've all felt that over the last 12, 13 weeks. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I think I quote John Lennon in the book, is that he said, life is what happens when we're busy making other plans. And we get to the end of our life, we get that wake-up call of cancer or whatever, and we go, whoops, what have I been doing? We're so busy making goals and plans and schemes. We're sitting at a bus stop waiting for the bus, going, where is it coming? Is it coming yet? Is it here? And we're not actually present or alive or tuned in even to what is right here. And yes, you make goals. Yes, you learn from the past, but you have to live your life here.
Yeah.
This is life itself.
Yeah, I
This
think
is
when we're focusing on out there, when we're focusing on the things where we want to be, we're missing out, aren't we, on the beauty that's really in the moment.
yeah.
Beauty of
And
where we are right now.
that's right. Well, there's no wisdom. When we're in our heads thinking about the future of the past, there's no wisdom of what this moment requires.
Mm.
The Serenity Prayer you talked about, the critical ingredient is the wisdom, the clarity to know, the intuition, the creativity, the spark is not there when we're lost in our heads.
Mm.
Every artist, every entrepreneur, sports people, everyone who's involved in anything creative or physical or knows when they get out of their heads and get into that sense of wisdom or flow, boom, magic happens. And we spend so long thinking about it so hard, we're not in the way of magic.
Mm.
And truly, magic is right here, right now, and you just got to tune into it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Magic is here and magic is right now. I love that. I love that. I like this one as well. Be bold. Be bold when you want to blend in. I work with a lot of people who struggle with their public speaking. They feel like they're an imposter and that they don't really know enough. And I know sometimes when we want to protect ourselves and we don't want to be visible or too visible, we don't want to be too seen, we do want to just blend into the background. But you say no, be bold. Tell me a little bit about the importance of being bold.
Oh my goodness, it's everything. It's the missing link between, well, again, the Serenity Prayer, the missing link between the serenity, the acceptance, the inner peace, and creating a life you're proud of and excited by.
Yeah.
And you've got to have the courage to look at your own stories and beliefs and where you're not taking responsibility for your life. But it's so rewarding. A little bit of boldness, a little bit of courage to face your fears and know that if you're afraid, it's probably a good sign that it's important to you. Because if you weren't afraid or you weren't uncertain, you wouldn't care.
You wouldn't really be bothered.
Yeah. So fear is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It shows you with crystal clarity, oh, maybe I should listen here. Maybe I should be more aware and take a step forward and get to know what's going on. But it's been a very reliable source for me of knowing when something's important and I need to pay attention and probably want to go beyond my comfort zone. That's the other fact of life, is that if you stay in your comfort zone, it tends to shrink. But and again, everything that's fantastic, everything that's wonderful has required you to leave your comfort zone, to take a leap into the unknown, into the uncertain. And we spend our whole life trying to make life certain, stable, solid, secure. But that's not how life works. It involves stepping off and going, I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm going to take a risk. I might fall on my face. I may look stupid. What will other people think of me? But it's the only way you grow. It's the only way you create incredible memories.
Yeah.
And like people on their deathbed, one of their biggest regrets is not that they failed, but that they did not try.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. I wish they'd done something.
Yeah. And if you think about it, your first kiss, I still remember it outside the swimming pool I was 13. Lisa George, if you're listening, hello. Thank you. But it's terrifying, right? Well, I was terrified, but what if I do it wrong? What if I mess up? And she tells the whole school that I'm a lousy kisser. What if she didn't want it? All that stuff. And so leap of faith, let go of control and just jump in and wow, magic, sparks, fireworks. Woohoo!
That was a good first kiss.
It was spectacular. I was floating a foot off the concrete after that.
So step outside your comfort zone and be bold. I think this is something that you must do a lot with your work that you do, because you must have to have a lot of courage. Cause do you actually like dispose of the bombs?
Oh, no. No, I work with the guys who are trained and qualified, and they do that. I
Goodness,
mean, say again?
that was just a tough job.
Well, they love it. They love it. They hate being stuck behind a desk. They love it, I think, when they're actually hands-on.
Scary.
Sounds like it anyway.
Scary stuff.
But it's like, and they talk about it. When there's trouble, everybody runs away except for the military and the police and the nurses and the ambulance. They're the helpers. They run towards.
Right. Yeah. They run in and provide a great service for us.
Oh my God.
The choice number 8 of your 8 choices was also to be a zero. To be zero when everyone is telling you to be someone. That's interesting. It's kind of the opposite of being bold, isn't it? When you want to blend in, when people are bigging you up and putting you out there, be zero. I guess that's about being humble and having humility.
It's part of the picture, yeah. And there's it's part of the picture, yeah. We can get so ego-centered and I'm incredible and all of that, and that's your greatest downfall. If you look at some of the leaders that we have at the moment, they are filled with the ego, and I don't think their lives are particularly satisfying, and they're definitely not doing an effective job. Sorry to get political.
No, that's all right.
but the other part is we think we know. We have a plan, we have an idea, and yet if you let go, there's a greater plan, a greater will at play. And I'm not saying don't be responsible. I'm not saying stay at home and wait for everything to be delivered on your lap, but the willingness to let go and know nothing and to respond to each and every moment with innocence is where the greatest magic, the greatest effectiveness comes from.
Amazing.
We walk into life not being zero. We walk into each moment going with prejudice, with judgment, with I am something important, or the opposite. I'm useless. And all I'm saying is walk in completely fresh, completely empty. Tune in, see what this moment requires. Respond without hesitation. And then you truly, truly can bring the full power of the whole universe through you to the situation, to the event, to the person. And people know that when someone's really giving them their full attention, their full and complete attention, without nothing to prove, nothing to hide, no agenda. It's an incredible connection. It's an incredible thing that's created. And it allows you to drop all your pretense, all your ego, all your excuses, and just be. There's such power in emptying your cup and really just be. So that's what I wanted to end the book on, because we're great doers and we're not human doings. We're human beings. And that's where the magic, the contentment, the peace, but also the power that we as an individual have. And it doesn't come from the mind. It comes from, probably, if you want a place, it comes from the heart. It comes from soul. It comes from the universe. But you've got to get out of the way and let it come through you.
I love it. How to live your life 200%. Thank you so much for coming on tonight and chatting with me. It's been absolutely amazing and enlightening, and I had about a million other questions I'd like to ask you, but I'll have to just get you back on another show.
Oh, please. I love this. Thank you. You asked the best questions.
It's been so lovely having you on. Thank you so much for being an amazing guest on the Wednesday Wellbeing Show. And if you're listening or if you're watching, I wish you a wonderful week of well-being.